Why is everyone leaving Canada in 2024? Part 2. Canada is often seen as a land of opportunity, diversity, and freedom. It attracts millions of immigrants every year who hope to find a better life in this beautiful country. But did you know that Canada is also losing a lot of people who decide to pack their bags and move to other places? In fact, the number of immigrants who left Canada rose by 31% above the national average in 2017 and 20,191. That's a lot of people. So, what are the reasons behind this trend? Why are people leaving Canada? And where are they going? In this video, I'm going to give you 20 reasons why people are leaving Canada, based on research, statistics, and personal stories. Some of these reasons might surprise you, so make sure to watch till the end. Before we start, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future videos. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. I love to hear from you. 8. Boring and monotonous lifestyle. An eighth reason why people are leaving Canada is the boring and monotonous lifestyle. Canada is often criticized for being a dull and boring country with little to offer in terms of culture, entertainment, and excitement. Canada is a large and sparsely populated country with a lot of empty space and wilderness. The population density of Canada is only 4 people per square kilometer, which is one of the lowest in the world. The urban areas of Canada are also not very lively or vibrant compared to other major cities in the world. Canada also has a limited and homogeneous culture, which is heavily influenced by the British and French colonial heritage and the American mass media. Canada lacks a distinctive and original identity, which makes it less appealing and attractive to foreigners and locals alike. Canada also has a low level of cultural diversity, which reduces the exposure and interaction with different people, languages, cuisines, arts, and traditions. According to the World Values Survey, Canada ranks 57th out of 102 countries in terms of cultural diversity and 64th in terms of cultural expression. Many Canadians are bored and dissatisfied with the lifestyle in Canada and are looking for more fun and diverse places to live. 9. Poor education system. A ninth reason why people are leaving Canada is the poor education system. Canada is often praised for its high quality and inclusive education system, which provides free and compulsory education for all children and youth, from kindergarten to grade 12. However, the reality is not as rosy as it seems. Canada's education system is facing a number of challenges and issues, which affect the learning outcomes and opportunities for its students. One of the challenges is the declining academic performance of Canadian students, especially in math and science. According to the Program for International Student Assessment, PISA, which measures the skills and knowledge of 15-year-old students in 79 countries, Canada ranks 12th in reading, 16th in science, and 23rd in math. That means Canada is lagging behind countries like China, Singapore, Estonia, Finland, and Japan in terms of academic achievement. Another challenge is the lack of diversity and choice in the curriculum and pedagogy of Canadian schools, which are largely standardized and centralized by the provincial governments. The curriculum and pedagogy of Canadian schools are often outdated, irrelevant, and boring, which fail to engage and inspire the students and to prepare them for the 21st century skills and competencies. The curriculum and pedagogy of Canadian schools are also biased and indoctrinating, which promote a certain worldview and ideology, and suppress critical thinking and independent inquiry. Another challenge is the lack of affordability and accessibility of higher education in Canada, which limits the options and prospects for Canadian students, especially those from low-income and marginalized backgrounds. The average tuition fee for undergraduate programs in Canada was $6,610 Canadian dollars per year in 2019 by 2020, which was an increase of 3.1% from the previous year. The average student debt in Canada was $28,000 Canadian dollars in 2019, which was an increase of 2.9% from 2016. That means many Canadian students have to take on huge loans or work part-time jobs to pay for their education, which can affect their academic performance and well-being. All these factors make Canada's education system less effective and attractive and drive people to seek better alternatives elsewhere. 10. High crime and violence. A 10th reason why people are leaving Canada is the high crime and violence. Canada is often perceived as a safe and peaceful country, which respects the rule of law and protects the rights and freedoms of its citizens and residents. However, the reality is not as secure as it appears. Canada has a high level of crime and violence, which threatens the safety and well-being of its people. According to Statistics Canada, There were 2,142,545 criminal incidents in Canada in 2019, which resulted in a crime rate of 5,874 per 100,000 population. That means there were about 16 crimes committed every hour, or 1 crime every 4 minutes, in Canada. The most common types of crimes in Canada were theft, fraud, assault, breaking and entering, and mischief. According to Statistics Canada, there were 678 homicides in Canada in 2019, which resulted in a homicide rate of 1.8 per 100,000 population. That means there were about 2 homicides every day, or 1 homicide every 13 hours, in Canada. The most common causes of homicides in Canada were firearms, stabbings, beatings, and strangulations. According to the Global Peace Index, which measures the level of peace and security in 163 countries, Canada ranks 6th in the world and 2nd in the Americas region. That means Canada is more peaceful than countries like the US, China, Russia, India, and Brazil, but less peaceful than countries like Iceland, New Zealand, Portugal, Austria, and Denmark. Many Canadians are worried and scared about the crime and violence in Canada and are looking for safer and more peaceful places to live. 11. Political instability and corruption. An 11th reason why people are leaving Canada is the political instability and corruption. Canada is often regarded as a stable and transparent democracy, which respects the rule of law, human rights, and civil liberties. However, in reality, Canada is not as stable and transparent as it claims to be. Canada has a number of political problems and scandals, which undermine the trust and confidence of its people in the government and the institutions. One of the problems is the political polarization and fragmentation of Canada, which creates division and conflict among the different regions, provinces, parties, and groups. Canada is a federal parliamentary democracy, with a bicameral legislature, consisting of the House of Commons and the Senate, and a constitutional monarchy, with Queen Elizabeth II as the head of state, represented by the Governor-General. Canada is also divided into 10 provinces and 3 territories, each with its own government and jurisdiction. Canada is also home to various ethnic, linguistic, religious, and cultural groups, each with its own interests and aspirations. All these factors make Canada a complex and diverse country, which requires a lot of cooperation and compromise to function effectively and harmoniously. However, in recent years, Canada has witnessed a rise of regionalism, separatism, populism, and extremism, which have challenged the unity and stability of the country. For example, Quebec has a long history of seeking independence from Canada, which has resulted in 2 referendums, in 1980 and 1995. Both of which failed by narrow margins. Alberta has also expressed dissatisfaction and resentment towards the federal government, especially over the issues of oil and gas, pipelines, and carbon tax, which have led to the emergence of the Alberta separatist movement, known as Wexit. The federal elections in 2019 and 2021 also showed a high level of fragmentation and polarization of the Canadian electorate, with no party winning a majority of seats, and with the rise of new and fringe parties, such as the People's Party of Canada, which advocates for anti-immigration, anti-vaccine, and anti-lockdown policies. Another problem is the political corruption and scandal of Canada, which erodes the integrity and accountability of the government and the institutions. Canada has a number of laws and agencies, which are supposed to prevent and combat corruption and misconduct, such as the Criminal Code, the Conflict of Interest Act, the Lobbying Act, the Access to Information Act, the Ethics Commissioner, the Auditor General, and the RCMP. However, these laws and agencies are often ineffective, inadequate, or compromised, which allow corruption and scandal to persist and flourish. For example, the SNC-Lavalin affair, which involved allegations of political interference and obstruction of justice by the Prime Minister and his office, in relation to the criminal prosecution of a Quebec-based engineering company accused of fraud and bribery in Libya. The We Charity scandal, which involved allegations of nepotism and conflict of interest by the Prime Minister and his cabinet, in relation to the awarding of a $912 million Canadian dollar contract to a charity organization with close ties to the Prime Minister and his family. The Aga Khan Island trip, which involved allegations of breach of ethics by the Prime Minister, who accepted a vacation on a private island owned by the Aga Khan, a billionaire philanthropist and spiritual leader of the Ismaili Muslims, who had business dealings with the Canadian government. 12. Low quality of life. A 12th reason why people are leaving Canada is the low quality of life. Canada is often ranked as one of the best countries in the world to live in, based on various indicators such as health, education, income, safety, happiness, and environment. However, these rankings do not reflect the actual experience and satisfaction of many Canadians, who face a number of challenges and difficulties in their daily lives. One of the challenges is the stress and anxiety of living in Canada, which affects the mental and emotional health of many Canadians. According to Statistics Canada, 17.1% of Canadians aged 12 and over reported having a mood or anxiety disorder in 2018, which was an increase of 2.6% from 2015. That means about 1 in 6 Canadians suffered from depression, bipolar disorder, panic disorder, or other mental health issues. According to the Canadian Mental Health Association, 40% of Canadians said their mental health had deteriorated since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, which added more pressure and uncertainty to their lives. Another challenge is the loneliness and isolation of living in Canada, which affects the social and relational health of many Canadians. According to Statistics Canada, 23.5% of Canadians aged 15 and over reported feeling lonely in 2018, which was an increase of 3.5% from 2013. That means about 1 in 4 Canadians felt alone, or lacked companionship, or felt left out, or isolated from others. According to the Angus Reid Institute, 53% of Canadians said they had less contact with friends since the COVID-19 pandemic, which reduced their opportunities for social interaction and support. All these factors make Canada a less enjoyable and fulfilling place to live, and drive people to seek higher quality of life elsewhere. 13. Lack of diversity and inclusion. A 13th reason why people are leaving Canada is the lack of diversity and inclusion. Canada is often celebrated as a multicultural and multiracial country, which welcomes and embraces people from different backgrounds, cultures, and identities. However, in reality, Canada is not as diverse and inclusive as it claims to be. Canada has a number of issues and barriers, which prevent the full participation and integration of its diverse population, especially those who belong to minority groups or who face discrimination and oppression. One of the issues is the racism and discrimination that exist in Canada, which affect the lives and opportunities of many Canadians, especially those who are Indigenous, Black, Asian, or Muslim. According to Statistics Canada, there were 1,946 hate crimes reported in Canada in 2019, which was an increase of 7% from 2018. That means there were about 5 hate crimes committed every day, or 1 hate crime every 5 hours, in Canada. The most common targets of hate crimes in Canada were race or ethnicity, 44%, religion, 36%, and sexual orientation, 10%. The most common types of hate crimes in Canada were mischief, 38%, assault, 29%, and uttering threats, 12%. According to Statistics Canada, there were 2,223,445 visible minorities in Canada in 2016, which represented 22.3% of the total population. However, only 15.8% of the members of the House of Commons and 9.4% of the members of the Senate were visible minorities in 2019. That means there was a significant underrepresentation of visible minorities in the federal parliament, which reflects the lack of diversity and inclusion in the political system. Another issue is the marginalization and oppression of the Indigenous peoples of Canada, who have suffered a long history of colonization, genocide, and assimilation by the European settlers and the Canadian government. According to Statistics Canada, there were 1,673,785 Indigenous peoples in Canada in 2016, which represented 4.9% of the total population. However, only 2.3% of the members of the House of Commons and 3.1% of the members of the Senate were Indigenous in 2019. That means there was a significant underrepresentation of Indigenous peoples in the federal parliament, which reflects the lack of recognition and respect for their rights and sovereignty. According to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, which investigated the legacy of the residential school system, which forcibly removed and assimilated over 150,000 Indigenous children from their families and communities, between 1870 and 1996, there were at least 4,100 deaths of Indigenous children in the residential schools, and thousands more who suffered physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. The residential school system was a part of the cultural genocide of the Indigenous peoples of Canada, which aimed to destroy their languages, cultures, and identities. All these issues show that Canada is not a truly diverse and inclusive country, and that many Canadians are facing racism, discrimination, marginalization, and oppression in their daily lives. To conclude, these are some few reasons why people are leaving Canada, based on research, statistics, and personal stories. Some of these reasons might resonate with you, and some of them might not. Some of these reasons might be positive and optimistic, and some of them might be negative and pessimistic. Some of these reasons might be common and general, and some of them might be rare and specific. The point is not to judge or criticize anyone who decides to leave Canada or to stay in Canada, but to understand and appreciate the diversity and complexity of the human experience and the choices and preferences of the individual. Canada is a great country, and it has a lot of advantages and benefits, but it also has a lot of challenges and drawbacks, and it is not for everyone. There are many other countries in the world, and each one has its own pros and cons, and its own appeal and charm. The decision to leave or stay in Canada is a personal and professional one, and it depends on many factors and circumstances, which are different for each person. There is no right or wrong answer, and there is no one-size-fits-all solution. The best thing to do is to do your own research, weigh your own options, and follow your own heart. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new and interesting. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. I love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.